The teenage years can be troublesome for many teens. Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, we'll talk to a local nonprofit that is teaching them all to become men and ladies of honor. That's just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show. Kids are grown now and work for me, but if I think back on their teenage years, I remember there was some anxious nights with both Dallas and Sarah. They've turned out to be fine young men and women, but I was nervous, and that describes a lot of parents, I think. To talk about that today, Tony Rorie, he is the executive director of the Men and Ladies of Honor. It's a nonprofit that is really helping change the trajectory of young people. Tony, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having us, Jeff.
We'll start at the very beginning because I love the story.
Sure. So I was working as a principal kind of in the inner city of Dallas. My campus was considered a Title I or an at-risk school, which meant most of the students in that school came from a low socioeconomic, many single-parent families, and my job was discipline. So day after day, I had an endless train of students that were in my office, but there were 4 boys that really were the biggest offenders. I called them my knuckleheads. But I noticed from these boys, the common denominator was they just don't have a dad, and that's the problem with most kids nowadays. I think nationally it's 46% of kids don't have a dad in the home. Urban areas it's like 78%. So being a dad, being a believer, I decided I would just kind of drop back and do something a little more preventative than curative, and started teaching the boys the basic. And it started off with, when you go back into your classroom, just say yes ma'am and watch what happens. When she comes to the door, open the door for her, watch what happens. So they would come back in my office and say, Mr. Rorie, she likes me, And but I knew they needed more than that. They needed biblical instruction in manhood. What does it mean to be a man? So I got permission and started an after-school program. Looked up one day and my group of 4 boys had turned into 50 boys that were sitting across from me. So that's how we got started, but we've expanded, all over the U.S. now and in 13 countries, and continue to grow because the need with fatherless students is just so great. Kids that come from fatherless homes are 5 times more likely to commit suicide, 15 times more likely to have behavioral disorders, and high dropout rates.
How did you get their respect? Because I think, gosh, I've not been a teacher, I've not walked a mile in your shoes, but that age group can be very much, eye-rolling when it comes to authority.
They can be challenging, but we always say that kids don't really care how much you know until they know how much you care. And when they realize that you're for them and you're trying to help them, slowly the walls begin to come down and you develop the trust that you need to be able to work with them.
Outstanding. We've got a video that we found off your website we'd like to share now.
In Men of Honor, we take kids that are at risk and actually help them become courageous leaders that can make good decisions and have positive futures. Thanks to companies like Baker Brothers Plumbing and Air Conditioning, we're able to take kids that are from in inner city Dallas and bring them to this life-changing camp that helps them to become men of honor.
A lot of times in those broken homes can really take its toll. So to come in and kind of get that moral fabric, that was really important to us, to support the men and women of honor.
Thanks to Baker Brothers, the old beater of a bus has gone under a transformation.
The money that we're doing is actually going to put air conditioning on the bus that takes them to camp, which is awesome because it's like 105 degrees. Also to expand their curriculum.
Most of these guys have never even seen nature like this. Broken Bow and the dam and the reservoir. So to bring them out into this setting so that they can experience a life-changing weekend. And the weekend just begins with them starting to think about, what kind of person am I? What kind of decisions do I make? One of the activities is we take them down the river. It has rapids and it has rocks, so they have to navigate this stream. They have to navigate through the rocks. And you know, some of them get hung up and they're stranded there in the water and they're screaming, and we just tell them, just work through it. And so it kind of paints a picture of life. You know, life gets really rough at times, and you have to learn to navigate some pretty rough waters, but you can do it. We take them on something that's called the One Thing Hike. And what they're challenged to do is pick up a rock or something that represents a trouble or a struggle or something that they're dealing with. When they get to the top, they're also challenged to share with the entire group one thing about them that they're afraid for anyone else to hear, and to know that they're not alone in the things that they struggle with. They take that rock and they throw it off the side of the mountain, which represents releasing and getting rid of that thing that was holding them back. This bus rolls up and down the highway, 10 times during our camp season. I am so excited about young people being able to come to these camps and get an opportunity to see a window on a brighter future than what they're already seeing. A chance to make great decisions with their life and a chance to make positive difference in their life.
My wish for these guys is that they embrace camp, that changes their lives, and they come back real men and women of honor.
That is so cool. And you've been doing this for 17 years.
17 years. It's hard to believe.
Yeah. Tell me, what's one of your favorite success stories? You don't have to name their name.
Well, I'm thinking about one of those 4 original boys that we reached out to him at our 10-year anniversary gala and asked if he could come and kind of share a story. He wasn't able to come, but he sent us a video because he was embedded with the Marines in Afghanistan. And he sent this video, and I always like to show it, but he's sitting there at the table with ribbons on his chest, talking about the impact of what Men of Honor helped him, and us knowing that, he had struggled with drugs and gang affiliation, to see him now serving his country and, having his own family and his own kids. It's just so rewarding.
And you're building a camp.
Yeah, we're building a camp in Broken Bow, Oklahoma. We've been leasing facilities for many years, but the Lord just opened up for us to get 35 acres, so we're building our own facility that'll house 70 students so we can do our weekend camps every weekend.
Well, I know you're a believer, and so am I. My father, brother, uncle, all ministers. And this was a God thing. I have to tell the audience that this was an accidental text message from one of our producers to you, and now you're on the show.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was just, a misplaced text that said something to the effect of, my kids are getting baptized and would love for you to be there. And I just answered back, said, congratulations, that's amazing. And she said, I sent it to the wrong person. But we know there's no coincidences.
I think she sent it to the right person.
Yeah, I think so too.
Well, we're almost out of time, so I'd like to, that's your camera right there, if you wanted to say something to the audience on how can they help?
Yeah, kids right now are really struggling with issues, especially in the inner city. We see up to like a 78% fatherless rate. What our hope is to do with Men and Ladies of Honor is to go into these junior highs where we're working with students that are basically the wet concrete, and start a seedbed of teaching young men and young ladies what it means to be a Christ-like man or a Christ-like woman. We think it will transform communities, and we just want to scale and replicate our program and see it in every public school in the United States.
Wow, you are such an inspiration. Thank you so much, Tony, for the wonderful work you're doing in the community, really changing lives. We're going to put the website up to end the segment. HonorChangesEverything.com is the website. Thank you so much for your service.
Thanks for having us, Jeff.
You bet. And that's it for now. We'll see you next time.